What's up guys, welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is one of my personal favorites, r/StoriesAboutKevin.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.
This story's called A Tragic Case of Chronic Self-Sabotage. So I had this person I was close friends with for about 7 years. Somewhere in the middle of that, we dated for a few months. They are male to female trans, which isn't relevant except for the fact that it explains why I, a straight female, have an ex I refer to by female pronouns. She has the dreaded mixture of Kevin stupidity and Karen entitlement, so I have decided to call her Carvin. In fairness to her, her issues seem to stem at least partially from emotional cruelty and other bad experiences. We became friends because we understood each other on that level, but I eventually realized the tragic levels of refusal to improve her life circumstances is something I cannot help her with. Carvin doesn't make any decisions on her own. She went to university because her parents gave her a little other choice. She took about 8 years and changed her major at one point due to perceived unfair treatment. Now, when we met, I too was going through a stage where I had experienced unfair treatment and was now feeling like I was unfairly treated all the time, even when I wasn't. I have since realized it and hopefully have grown out of it. Carvin, because of unfair experiences, blows a lot of things out of proportion and can be unreasonable and entitled in her expectations of society. She also finds ways to justify every decision she makes in such a way that it is never her fault. We started dating about the time she finished university. In her final semester, she did one course and barely passed. When I later asked her why she didn't try harder, her answer was that her dad told her not to think about her future because it was a waste of time. I suspect her dad meant for her to focus on doing well now, but she took it to mean, please don't even try to get good grades because setting yourself up for a good future isn't important. Also around that time, she had a job at a fast food place. She had trouble balancing it with volunteer commitments. She ended up outright not showing up for work one day to meet another commitment. She found ways to justify it to herself by blaming her bosses and making out like they pushed her into a corner. For a while, she had no shifts and tried to spin having fewer shifts as positive. Eventually, she realized she was fired, thought it was unfair, and boycotted the company. As the daughter of store owners who are constantly stressed by no-shows, I should have been offended, but I let it slide because I was developing feelings for Carvin. Later, while we were dating, I brought up my parents' stress about no-shows. Carvin didn't take the hint. With no trace of self-awareness, she complained about no-shows at her current job. Because Carvin had a car and I didn't, I sometimes asked her for rides to places. One day, I had somewhere to be early in the morning, then had university-related things afterwards. My university-related stuff that day wasn't absolutely vital, so I didn't want to put pressure on Carvin to rush getting me there. Unfortunately, she apparently took no pressure to mean, oh, please make sure we're late no matter what other responsibilities you have. We wound up getting in a fight. She had trouble finding the place despite it being near her work, and wound up being late for work because apparently giving her permission to take her time overrode her responsibility to make sure she was to work on time. In another instance of me assuming a grown-ass adult would take responsibility for her own preparedness for work. We were at my apartment watching Big Brother. Survivor was on right after. Since it was my house, I knew I could watch it and still get to bed on time. I asked Carvin if she wanted to stay and watch Survivor or if she thought it was time for her to go home. I showed her the time grid on the TV, what time Survivor started and ended. She wound up being late for work the next morning. Weeks later, during a fight, yeah, it wasn't the healthiest relationship, she used this as an example of me losing track of time. Remember when we were so caught up watching Survivor, we didn't realize the time and I was late getting up the next day? She got angry when I explained that I knew what time it was. Like it was my responsibility to make sure she went home at a certain time. Did she not understand that a show was on for a specific period of time? Did she think we were in control of how long it took to watch the show? I had specifically asked her if she felt like staying to watch Survivor, figuring she would know enough to know that meant an hour or more. We saw the movie, Inside Out, together, and afterwards we were discussing different possibilities with the emotions. What would happen if joy and sadness went away and disgust, anger, and panic were in control with anger as the leader? You mean the plot of the movie we just saw? Oh, right. She had spare keys to my apartment. On her main keyring, one of the smaller keyrings she was carrying was the one I gave her with 2 keys. One with a diamond-shaped head that opened the door to my building, the other opened the door to my apartment and had a square-shaped head. She was trying to unlock my apartment door. I showed her the correct keyring, 2 keys to choose from. She tried the correct one first, but for some reason thought it didn't work. Then she tried the other one. I said, "No, it's the one with the square head." Since I had already narrowed it down to the 2 on that ring, I thought that was sufficient to point her to the correct one. She gave up on that keyring and tried a different key that didn't have the shape I described. I lost my temper. We were at the mall together and I pointed out a knockoff Lego store that I had previously texted her about. She was too focused on the fact that she saw someone she knew and didn't process what I was pointing out. Weeks later, we ran across the knockoff Lego store and she was surprised and acted like she had no idea it was there. We were looking up showtimes for a movie. She was surprised the website defaulted to showtimes for today before we input the day we wanted. Like it was supposed to read our minds or something. World revolves around us, right? I think sometimes she looks for things to complain about. This part of the story I have told on r/entitled people. Carvin was training to be an insurance broker. She went to write her licensing exam, fully aware in advance of the rules. Forgets to bring the required identification. They don't let her write the exam. She thinks it's the pinnacle of injustice when they won't refund her money, even though they explained that they would lose out on pay. I'm sure she would quickly see their side if she were the one whose pay would be cut by refunding someone who didn't bother with remembering the rules. Instead of taking the loss and writing at a later date, she throws a hissy fit, disrupts the test, and insults the invigilators by saying they don't have to work for a living. She is surprised when this results in security being called and a ban from the campus. Later, she retells the story frequently and tries to make it sound like all she did was disagree with the rules. She later tried writing to government officials for sympathy and was surprised they couldn't help save her career. I wasn't in touch with her when this happened, but later, when we reconnected, I heard the story from her several times with her trying to use it as part of her rationale for distrusting authority and having a victim complex. When I tried to reason with her, she only kind of took some degree of accountability some of the time. Carvin then spent years in a vicious cycle, get pressured by family to get a job, find some way to screw it up, either by rage quitting when something doesn't go her way or by getting fired, go back to routine of searching for a job. I made many attempts to help her out of this cycle, to find some solution to how she can get a job she can keep and gain financial independence from her family. Whenever I think she has found a way out, she finds another set of excuses for why she is still stuck. At one point, she told me that she went to an employment agency and they said they would have to put her on a wait list for a year. I asked if, given the circumstances, perhaps it would be a good idea to put herself on the list. She made the excuse that they treated her badly by not listening, so she didn't want help from them. At one point, Carvin got a job at a call center. Specifically, her job was to offer people deals in order to try to talk them out of canceling their cable subscriptions. To be the "Are you sure you want to quit?" pop-up. All during training, she was confident this job would work out. She liked the environment she was working in. I was happy for her. Then when she actually started the job, she became extremely stressed out by dealing with angry, irrational customers and soon had to quit for her health. She had worked many retail jobs before. While I sympathize and don't know if I would have been able to handle the job, I couldn't help wondering, didn't she know enough to expect angry, irrational callers yelling at her? She constantly seems to believe companies should go out of their way to advertise everything. To the point that one day a friend we were hanging out with remarked he didn't know the mall had stairs to the parking garage. Carvin says, "Yeah, they just don't go out of their way to advertise it." Imagine thinking it rational to imply the mall should put up a sign announcing they have stairs to the parking garage. I wouldn't dwell on it if it were a one-time thing, but she seems to think a customer shouldn't have to seek information on anything from stairs to college program options. I made a YouTube video focusing on Cinderella's stepsister, Anastasia. Despite the title of the video saying it was about Anastasia and clips being focused on Anastasia, she watched the video and thought it was about Cinderella until I told her otherwise. She then thought I was talking about Anastasia from another movie despite looking right at the video of Cinderella's stepsister full of clips from the Cinderella films. Said, "I didn't know Cinderella and Anastasia were in the same universe." She then made the excuse of not knowing the stepsisters' names before. You don't need to know their names to know the character in front of your face is in the Cinderella films. Carvin never admits to making a conscious decision on her own accord. It is always forced upon her by family or employers. One time, she was telling me a story where accepting a job on the spot led to inconveniences in her life. She said, "I panicked and took the job," because she had limited time to decide. Panicked and took the job. She seriously can't take responsibility for any choice in her life. When it comes to important things, she waits for her family to take care of things. Carvin, at the suggestion of her dad, decides she will work for a delivery company. The deal was supposedly it would technically be considered self-employment, and she thought that would work out better than what she has been doing. It seemed she may finally have a path to success, so of course, she found a way to screw it up. Despite that, she had this plan and didn't need a job in the meantime. She took a job that turned out to be a scam in which she lost a lot of money and went into debt. Because she can't take responsibility for her decision, she blames her dad for pressuring her to get a job with a certain salary. Now that she owes her family money, she can't afford changing her vehicle insurance to do deliveries and conveniently gets to go back to her pattern of looking for crappy jobs. Soon after, we had a fight because I said sometimes I don't think she wants to improve her life. She blocked me on Facebook and we haven't had contact since. This is all really difficult for me because I care about this person a lot, but I couldn't deal with her self-destructiveness. I hope somehow she eventually gets her act together, but I'm losing faith in that. I think this vicious cycle of crappy job after crappy job and feeling like a victim of society's ills at every turn may be her entire life until old age. While some of these were for sure Kevinness, I feel like some of these were unfair criticisms. Like the whole Anastasia thing, I literally don't know anything about Anastasia or Cinderella's stepsisters or know how they look. Like, if you would show me one, I would probably not be able to tell you who it was. Even if an acceptable answer would be Cinderella's stepsister. I do, however, know that Anastasia, the other princess or whatever, is also a Disney movie. So when she'd tell me that, I'd be surprised too. I would probably literally say, wow, they're in the same universe? I didn't know that. And there are a couple others in here that I feel like are unfair criticisms, and y'all can probably figure out which ones I'm talking about if you agree. This story's called, Kevin Said He Was the Alpha Male. Hello all, first post here on mobile, my apologies for formatting. I met my Kevin in high school. Kevin wasn't his name, obviously. I was hesitant to post anything about him here as I thought his antics would be an insult to other Kevins. But after reading some of the posts in here for some time, he's pretty comparable. I have several little stories about Kevin. You ready? Here we go. I was, and still am, friends with Kevin's brother. So in high school, I often gave Kevin a ride home too. One day, I had a bad day and was obviously pissed, as most teenage boys are. Kevin walks up to me and says, and I'm not even kidding, "I know exactly what's wrong with you." What? Kevin's shouting, "You have an erection!" I quickly turned and covered his mouth. He shouted this in front of several other students and I was mortified just being near him. Teenage me died a little inside that day. Kevin didn't know what sperm was. Really wish I was making that one up. Kevin went through a phase I can only call the alpha male phase. He saw a local play about dogs and one of the dogs was a jerk. Called himself the alpha male and acted all cool about it. Kevin decided, in all his wisdom, that he should act this way too. So for about a year or so, he called himself the alpha male. If you argued with him about something and asked him why he did something, his reply was predictably, "I'm the alpha male, you do what I say." This phase finally came to an end after a friend's birthday party. The place the party was at had a laser tag arena. Kevin was going on and on about being the alpha male, and 3 laser tag employees joined the game, naming themselves on the board as Alpha Male 1, Alpha Male 2, and Alpha Male 3. The employees absolutely destroyed Kevin and the rest of his team. Thank goodness he stopped saying it after that. Kevin loved plays. He thought he was the most talented actor ever and wanted the lead role in every single play he auditioned for. If he didn't get the lead role, he would throw a huge fit and talk about getting revenge on the people in charge of casting. The role he just wanted to play most of all was Peter Pan. He didn't get the role, obviously. He talked about getting revenge on the person responsible of casting for about 2 years. Kevin's parents got divorced after high school. The first thing he was upset about was losing access to his dad's Netflix account, not the fact that his parents were divorcing. This was before different profiles were available on Netflix, just for clarification. Kevin thought he could sing. It was like listening to nails on a chalkboard. He couldn't hold a note to save his life. He wanted to audition for American Idol one year, and I told him I would drive him to the city where they were holding auditions just to see what Simon would say to him. That never happened, as much as I would have been entertained by that. Speaking of singing, remember how Kevin loved plays? For the longest time, he was absolutely obsessed with cats. He even dressed up as one of the cats out of nowhere one day and proclaimed that he was the alpha male. That was my Kevin. He moved out of state years ago after getting married. Yes, really. And has been out of contact since. There are more stories, but I have to get back to work. If you guys are interested, I'll post more in the future. Oh man, that guy just sounds blatantly socially unaware of everything ever. Oy.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.